Hello and welcome to Philosophy 110 Ethics. My name is Stephen Everett and I will be your instructor for this course. This is a course for everyone in the class. For those who may have already taken online classes using this D2L interface that we can see on the screen, as well as for those who have never taken an online class using this interface or any online class in general. Either way, it's a video for everyone in the class. To get started, the first thing we can notice is that this is the home page that you'll land on when you click on to go into the class. There's an updates block here that's separated kind of from the background. It's a lighter color than the gray background. Inside this, you'll see links that appear throughout the semester. They'll say that you have a certain number of unread discussion posts or that you have a quiz that needs to be completed. What I would encourage everyone to do is use this window as an indication that you need to go do something in the class, that, oh yeah, I have a quiz to complete. But to not click on the links like the notifications, they appear in the form of links, but don't click on those as a way to try to go do those things that it's indicating you need to do. Instead, you can use the assignments tab and the content tab, which we'll talk about in this video. Instead of just clicking on the links in here. I would say not to avoid doing that because historically in this class, as well as all of them at the college, that sometimes it'll say you have a quiz to do here, but it could be referring to a quiz you have in another class if one of your other teachers is using D2L to deliver quizzes to you, or to set them up so that you take and then complete them. So you could click on the link thinking you're about to take your philosophy quiz, but end up in a math class or something, some other class you're taking, and open that quiz thinking you're about to take one type of quiz, and then you're confronted with an entirely different one, and there can be timers associated with the quizzes. Then you'll have to get your teacher to reset it. It can just be a lot of difficulty for no reason. If you see that it says that you need to go do something, go look for those things under the content and the assignments tab rather than just clicking on the links. It's just a way to make your life easier. The next thing is the calendar. The calendar, you can look through it if it's helpful to you in the class. That's fine. But the calendar inside inside D2L here does not tell you everything you might like to know about the class. For that, you'll be better off going and opening this document, this course schedule. Take it. It's just a few pages. You can save to your computer. You can print it out. You can carry it with you and have it through the remainder of the semester. If you click on this link for course schedule, what you'll see is a document that looks like this. This is the entire course laid out from left to right for each week. Everything you'll encounter this semester is listed on this course schedule. For, say, week 1, which is the week we're in by the time you're watching this video, these will be the dates associated with week 1. It gives you a preview that we're talking about an introduction to ethical inquiry. It gives you the sort of link name to look for in the class for the week 1 discussion. It gives you the unlock and lock times. What are these? These are when this week begins and when it ends. Given that this is the first week, it's not beginning on a Saturday, but normally what happens every week is we start a week and you have until midnight that Saturday to complete the assignments associated with it. But at that exact same time at midnight on Saturday, the next week's material opens. So you can see that this lock time for week 1 is the unlock time for week 2. So we go from Saturday at midnight to Saturday at midnight. That's the flow of the class throughout the semester. That may be a little different than some of the other classes you've taken. That's fine, no worries. It's just the way this class operates. It's from one Saturday at midnight to the next Saturday at midnight. Inside this readings and videos section, this column, you'll see these are the things to read and watch throughout this first week 1. There's all these documents with SE behind them. You'll notice that throughout each week, throughout the semester. What that is my initials. That is lecture material that is what you would receive if we were in a physical classroom together. There's a video and a handout that goes along with it for every single week. And but what I do need to let you know is that I'm having to re-upload videos for some of the later weeks in the class, like after week 5 or 6. You'll see where it says that it's going to appear a video will appear on a certain date and time, and that's because the way D2L stored videos, we had to all pull our videos out of it because they needed to just clean the servers and they wiped all the content on the servers, and it's taking time to put all these videos back into the system. So it just takes time to re-upload videos. And so after about week 4 or 5, you'll see that there's a time when the videos to appear. That's fine. You can absolutely though go ahead and read and watch for weeks ahead of where we are if that's the way you like to do things. It's just that you may run into eventually when we get down past week 4 that you'll have to wait until the week officially begins on the unlock time for the actual lecture videos to appear. But that won't be any worries for the first weeks of the class, and hopefully you'll never run into it where there's a lecture video and you want to watch it ahead of time, but it's still locked out. I'm doing my best to get these videos back in there, but just give me time. Either way, by the time the unlock time arrives, you'll always have your lecture material, your videos there, and all the rest of the content. The final thing is, say for week 1, there's also this assignments column, and it's telling you when things are due. Like in this class, you have just a standard is you have discussions that you participate in, you have quizzes and exams that you complete. Every week there's a discussion. It involves you read the question, you make an initial post to discussion, and you try to do that around the middle of the week. This 7 p.m. is around every Wednesday at 7 p.m. to try to go ahead and make a post on the discussion board. And then after you do that, you're able to see what everyone else has posted. You can read those posts, and then you reply to at least 2 of your peers' posts. But if it takes you a little longer than Wednesdays to get your initial post up there, like even if it stretches over into Thursday, given your job schedule or something, that's fine. The goal is just to always kind of set this time in your mind is, yeah, I need to try to get an initial post by that time. The reason is so everyone has as much time as possible to read and reply to your post, and you'll get to see their reply and enough time to maybe reply to their reply. It makes the discussions actually interesting and useful rather than just a task. And also there's a quiz that's due by the end of pretty much every week. The week the midterm's in play, there's not a quiz, but all the other weeks there's a quiz. So every week with assignments, there's discussions to participate in, there's a discussion to participate in, there's a quiz to complete. Now, on this first week, there's these other sorts of activities as attendance and ID verification, which we'll talk later in this video about that. But as you can see, it's like week 1's laid out horizontally. What it's about, what the discussion link is, the title of, what you're reading and watching, and then the assignments to complete based on what you read and you watched. Then every week's got laid out very similarly. It's got the topic, it's got the name of the discussion link, it's got the lecture material and all the supporting documents you'd look for and try and find for that week. And then you have your discussions and quizzes. This course schedule also includes when is extra credit opportunities available. There are 3 throughout the semester. They're extra. You don't have to do them. But if you do want to do them, this is when the first one's done. It needs to be turned in by. As well as it tells you when the midterm exam is. It tells you when spring break is. It tells you when the second extra credit is due. As well as if you go all the way down, it tells you when the third extra credit, as well as the final exam. So this is the entire course laid out in 3 pages. And so I would encourage everyone to have this, because if you have this, you know what you're looking for inside D2L. And that's so helpful. Even if you've done online classes before, sometimes it can be a little confusing of what am I actually looking for? What do I need to find for this week? And we're going to talk through it as we go in this video. But that is this course schedule, and I would encourage people to use this as your calendar rather than just trying to follow along with this D2L calendar. It's accurate. It's got the same dates, the same times, But if you have the course schedule, you have everything in your hand. And you can always use it, and it does match up with what's happening inside this class. So the next thing is the news feed. The news feed that's on this welcome page, it works like standard kind of social media news feed or comments under videos on YouTube, Rumble, whatever. That the most recent post is at the top, and those that were made earlier than that post appear underneath it, so they stack on top of one another. Well, the very first news post is the welcome message. It's got my name, got the class name. It says the very first thing to do to get started is watch the video you're currently watching. So you're watching this video, you're doing exactly what you need to do. Everything with this class starts with this video. The next thing is it says here's you need to carefully read the syllabus and course schedule. Well, we've already seen the course schedule. We just glanced at it, but go back after this video and kind of look at it and see how it matches up with the class. The syllabus, we will talk through that near the end of the video. Now, those sets of documents may not be what you're familiar with. If you've taken other classes at the college, you may be more familiar with this format. This instructional packages course information sheet. As far as the material that's most relevant to you goes, the same stuff is in the syllabus and the course schedule as it is and appears in these two documents. The reason I include the syllabus course schedule in a slightly different format is because historically in this class, students prefer this layout, and so I include it. They like the course schedule separated out. It's easier, 3 pages, rather than being a part of this larger document. And that's totally understandable. That's why what I encourage everyone to do, read through these 2 documents this week, look through these. Whichever set you like the most. If you like this layout the best, use it throughout the semester. Just use that as your guide. The policies, everything's identical in these 2 documents as in these, except this one includes a little more generic information. This has a slightly different layout rather than the layout of these. But in terms of what you need to do well in the class and what you need to know about, the information in here is identical to in here. It's just different ways of presenting it. So you can use these 2 the whole semester, successfully complete the course. You can use these 2 the whole semester, successfully complete the course. Just pick whatever set this week you like, go with it, and you'll be fine. And ask me any questions as you're looking through them. The textbook, yep, there is a required textbook for this course. There's Khan Exploring Ethics, a 6th edition. There are other additions to this textbook. There's like all the way from 6 all the way back to the 1st. And there is even, in some cases, there's a 7th that a person may find. We're using the 6th edition. This class is built around it. Can you use an earlier edition, the 5th edition? You can. Most of the articles would be the same, but there are some additions in the 6th one that we do use that you would not have access to. So if you want to have the edition that the class is built around, and so it will match up and align, you want the 6th edition. But you do need this book. We do use it throughout the semester. It's necessary to successfully complete the quizzes and the exams to have a copy of this book. Doesn't matter if it's used, doesn't matter if it's new, but you do need to get this. Now, do you have to have this textbook this week? No. The first 2 weeks of this semester, week 1, week 2, you can do everything you need is provided to you, and you can do the class the first 2 weeks without the textbook. But starting week 3, you do need this textbook and the articles in it. You got 2 weeks to obtain it. That's by design so that everyone has time to obtain the textbook. You don't need it. You can do everything for this week. You can week 1, you can do everything for week 2 without it. But starting week 3, you do need it. How to email me. This is a 100% online class. We don't meet in person. And so you never have to go to campus for anything associated with this class. You complete all the discussions, the quizzes, the exams. You do everything related to this class online. So what that means is we need a reliable way to communicate in case you have any questions or that I need to get in touch with you for something. And so the way we do that is email. Everything starts with email. This is my email address. It's the one that I use, this one and no other. And when you get ready to send me an email, what to do is get out of this D2L system. What we're in right now, you can go to your HGTC email, or you can use Gmail, Outlook, whatever. The HGTC email is a version of Outlook. It works fine. That you just get out of D2L, then go to your HGTC or other outside email, put my address in, type it in, make sure you've typed it in accurately, and then send me your email. I'll reply to you. Typically, if you send me an email at 8 o'clock one morning, you'll almost certainly have a reply from me by 8 that night. But give me up to 24 to 48 hours to reply. The reason for that is sometimes things do come up on my end, especially during the first week, because I'm receiving a lot of emails, as you'll see very quick, very soon. That I do receive a lot of emails this first week, and it takes me a little time to read through all of them and get all the replies back to people. But I always do my best. I check email every day, even on the weekend most times. And so when you send me an email, you can definitely expect a response, normally within 12 to 24 hours, but give me up to 48, which is 2 full days. And if you have not received an email from me, a reply in that 2 days, send your email again. Make sure you send it to the right address, then send it again. Hey, I sent you this earlier. I don't know if you saw it. Here it is again. I'll see it. I'll read it. I'll reply to it. I do my best to stay on top of email. The next thing that's mentioned here is talking about sending me an email. Well, for this week and this week alone, send me an email as soon as possible. Definitely by midnight, the last day of this week, like midnight Saturday of this week. Send me an email. Hey, I'm in your ethics class. That's all you have to do. If you have any questions, it's fine. You can ask them. I will answer them, and all will be well. But definitely send me an email as soon as possible. You can do it after watching this video today. It's no, burdensome task to just go to your email, put my address in, send me an email. Hey, I'm in your ethics class. And then that lets us know I'll see your email, I'll reply to it, and then we both know that we can get in touch with each other throughout the semester, which is necessary in a class like this one. You may have questions, and you don't want the time that you have questions to be the very first time you're emailing me. I mean, that's because it's better to go ahead and get it out of the way. So just send me an email this first week. All is good. And I'll see it. I'll reply to it. You can save that reply. And then if you keep it in your email, in your inbox, you can always just reply to my reply throughout the semester. And then we know we have a reliable way to communicate. The next thing is to complete this week's assignments. There is a discussion that's due by the end of this week. There's a quiz. We'll talk more about how those work in this video in a little while. Then there's this identity verification. And this is the school's thing. They want this done, and they do it. It's based on federal financial aid as well as state financial aid. It's tied up with federal and state laws. So they definitely want everybody to do this. This isn't my policy. It's the school's policy, and we have to follow it. That all parts of this are used to verify everyone's attendance with the registrar this week. And that if this is not done this week, I'm required. This is not my policy, but it's the school's policy that I have to follow, that I have to withdraw people that have not completed these things by the end of this week. I mean, it's not, what I necessarily want to do, but it's what they want done to meet state and federal laws. So you need to do these 3 things by the end of this week. Now, after this week, you don't ever have to send me an attendance email again. And you don't ever have to verify identity again. You're done with those things. And then it's just discussions and quizzes and exams. That's it for, this week. There's these multiple tasks, but it streamlines after this first week. And then here's also the identity verification. What is this? Well, to do the stuff, you just send me an email with attendance stuff. and you just do it once this week. After this week, your grades or your attendance is updated based off of completing discussions and quizzes. As you complete the assignments, I see that you've completed them. I update your attendance for each week after this week. But this week, you do need to send me that email. Now, identity verification. What is this? This is a thing that the college needs everyone to do. And you just take a self picture. It's a selfie holding a photo ID. If it's your school ID, a license, whatever it is, it's fine. It's just a self picture holding your ID. And once you have that picture, it'll walk you through. You go to this link and you click on it. It'll walk you through the process of uploading that picture file to the class. No one else sees your pictures. It's inside a folder. No one else sees them. So it's just a matter of this is the way your identity is verified that you're in the class through the college. That's all it is. So that's what's on this landing page. There will be news updates as we go throughout the semester. More will appear here, and they're always going to be relevant. They're always going to be communicating something that applies to everyone in the class. And so whenever you log into the class, always look at this news feed and say, hey, have I read this post? If you haven't, go ahead and read it. But also make sure to go and scroll down and look and make sure there's not another post that you may have missed. Always read the news post down to what you know you've read before. And because sometimes I may make a post and then there's another thing that you need to know about, and then that comes in and the two things are one on top of the other. And so you need to scroll down to make sure you're seeing all of them. The next thing are these tabs. You won't have these two. This is what the class is from my viewpoint of it. But there's tools, and under this, there's just two tabs you're using. There's attendance and grades. There will be others under here, but the only two that you can consistently check and use. I mean, you can look at some of these others, but there's nothing associated with them. Instead, it's these two are what matters to you most: attendance and grades. The way attendance works, like I said, after this week, it's based off just you completing the assignments. I see that you've completed them. I update your attendance. Grades, when you do a quiz or an exam, you can know what your grade is instantaneously. Discussions are always days behind. So every week there's a discussion. It completes on a Saturday at midnight. I go in, I read all the discussions, all the replies. That takes time. So it takes your discussion grade will appear when it finishes on a Saturday at midnight. I always do my best to have the grades for discussions up there by Sunday, Monday, but give me until Tuesday the following week. So about 3 days after you finish the discussion, come in, you can check grades and see what your grade was on the discussion for the previous week. And when I update discussion grades is when I update attendance. That's the way it works. So as far as quizzes, exams, you'll be able to see your grade instantly. As far as discussion grades and attendance, that's always going to be about 3 days after a previous week is finished. So it's always going to lag behind about 2-3 days before the discussion grade and the attendance present or absent to appear. But that's really it. Under tools, attendance and grades, and you can check that anytime throughout the semester. Communications. There is a way to see all the news posts isolated from this. If there's like an old news post you're looking for, then it's already vanished off this welcome page. You can always see all the news posts and everything that's been posted to news through here. This is not how you email me. We've already talked about how you email me. You get out of D2L. This is an internal thing to D2L. It's not very reliable historically. You can send an email through this, and it may take days to get to me and days for you to receive my response. That's no good at all. It's just so you don't want to use that as a way to communicate with me. You send it to my HTTC email. But news, that may be useful to you at times. Now, assignments. There's 3 tabs here that we use. One, there's discussions, Dropbox, and quizzes. Well, let's see what happens when we click on Dropbox. Where do we go? We go to the folder where you turn in your selfie with your photo ID. You can upload it this way. that if you have the file on your computer, however you're accessing the class, you can go to Assignments, Dropbox, and then just click on this folder. It'll walk you through uploading your picture on this link. But that's all there is under Dropbox, just doing your identity verification with the school. Now, quizzes. What happens when we click this? Well, it's all the quizzes that are associated with this semester and the exams. Everything's here. And what they have is they have the available and until dates. This is the same as the unlock and the lock dates in the course schedule. That by the time you're watching this video, there will be another box that will have appeared here, and it'll say current quiz, and quiz 1 will be in that box. And then that lets you know that's the quiz that's open right now that you complete by the end of the week. And this is an easy way to keep track of what week are we in the course at any given time throughout the semester. If you're unsure, like what week are we in, you can always go Assignments, Quizzes, and whatever's in the current quizzes box, the number beside the quiz, that's the week we're in. The quiz 1's associated with week 1. Quiz 2 is associated with week 2. Etc. And then there's a link like you saw to the midterm exam. There's also a link to the final exam. As these links become available, they move into the current quizzes box, which will appear by the time you're watching this video. So that's the quizzes. This is one way to access them. There's another way under content, which we'll see in just a little while. The next thing is discussions. So we've seen Dropbox, we've seen quizzes. What about discussions? How do they work? So you have assignments, discussions. That's all I did is click this. And these are all the discussions that appear throughout the semester. The first two things are just voluntary things. Like there's this course information section, and it's just a matter of if you had questions about the syllabus, this video, anything like that, you can post them here. But I'd encourage you just send me an email. It's much more straightforward. Anything you post in these discussions, everyone in the class can see, can read, can reply to. So you'd never want to post anything here to do with your personal grades, things like that. You always send those questions to me through email. And it's easier overall just to email me the questions. But this may be useful if it's like 3 o'clock in the morning, you're looking for something in the class, you've forgotten how to find it. You could post a question of, where's this week's quiz or something. You may post it here, and if someone else is in the class, they see it before I see it, they read it, and they put a reply, and they answer your question. That may be helpful in that sort of special use case, but otherwise, just email me your questions and I'll always answer them promptly. There's a place you can introduce yourself. You don't have to. It's voluntary, but if you want to, you can. The study group, you can form study groups and with each other in this if you want to. Some semesters students do, some semesters they don't. There's no grade associated with doing this, but it's just here and available if it's something you're interested in. Everyone can read and reply to whatever's posted in that. This is week 1 discussion, though. This is when things are starting to be required. The main idea with discussions is you look through the lecture material for a week, and then around the middle of the week, around Wednesdays, Thursdays, it's said 7 p.m. Wednesdays, but if it takes you a little longer, that's okay. But you always need to get an initial post to discussions up by around Wednesday, Thursday, so that people have enough time, yourself included, to read and reply to other people's posts. The way it works with discussions is there'll be a prompt. It describes what's going on. In this case, this week, there's a scenario. There's not a scenario every week. Some weeks are different. But you'll have some information up front, and then if you scroll through it, there's eventually going to be questions. Your initial post is when you have read through and watched the lecture material. You come to the discussion, you read what the prompts, then you answer these questions. When you do that, you've done your initial post. You've answered them, you posted it to the discussion board. Well, how do you make a post? You have your answers to those questions, and you just click on the link. When you click on this link, you'll get prompted to start a new thread. Click that button and a text box will appear that you can type your answers in to the questions and then post it or submit it. There'll be a button that's labeled post or submit. And once you've done that, you made an initial post to the weekly discussion. And you want to do that around Wednesday, Thursday. That means you'd want to be reading and watching the lecture stuff before Wednesday, or at the latest before Wednesday, 7 p.m., midnight, things like that. And then you make your initial post. Once you do that, you'll be able to see if anybody else has already posted. You'll be able to read their post, click on it, and be able to reply. That each week you need to make an initial post and then read what your peers have posted in the class and reply with helpful feedback to at least 2 of them. That's the minimum requirement to do discussions completely, is you make an initial post around the middle of the week, answering the questions with your reasoning, and then you go back in after you've done that and you'll be able to see what everyone else has posted. You read the post and then put replies to at least 2 of them. And the replies are just feedback on what did you agree with, what you disagree with that a person said, your reasons. You always have to include your reasoning for it. If you think an example they presented worked well, tell the person you think it worked well and why you think it worked well. It's always important to include your reasoning for it. And there's more about that in our approach to ethics, about giving reasons for your answers, things like that. But the idea is, well, how would you reply? Well, you'll see people's posts, you click on it, and there'll be a button at the bottom that says reply. When you click that reply button, a text box appears and you type in your feedback to the person. The main guide to this is provide 2 people each week. They can be different people as the weeks go along, but provide at least 2 of your peers with feedback you yourself would like to receive. And it always has to be more than a simple I agree or I disagree. You always have to give reasons for what you're agreeing with and disagreeing with. That's how we practice this argumentation skill that's talked a whole lot more about in our approach to ethics. But that's how discussions work. Each week, there's a discussion. It has a prompt and questions. You work through the lecture material, read it, watch it. Then around the middle of the week, you come to the discussion, you click on it, put your answers in and post it. Then after that, you can see what everyone else has posted. Then you click through, you read them. And as you're reading through, if you feel like you can give someone helpful feedback, you have to find at least 2 out of everybody in the class each week that you provide feedback to. And they'll be doing the same. People will reply to your post. Some weeks some people will, some weeks nobody may reply to yours, but eventually somebody will reply to some of your posts and you'll reply to everyone else's by the end of the semester as it goes along. But either way, those are discussions for every week, and discussions make sense after you do them once, twice. You start understanding it because you do it every single week. It becomes a pattern and a habit. So it takes a little bit of getting used to the first week, second week, but after that, most everyone, it starts to just make sense. Okay, this is how I do that. And so there's discussions for every week. And you can scroll through this after this video and look at all of them. They're all up there. And they open as each week opens. So we've seen everything that you use under assignments. Like we're not using any of these other tabs, but we do use discussions, Dropbox, quizzes. The Dropbox is just where you do your self-picture with photo ID. So really after this first week, you're just using discussions and quizzes, those 2 tabs. Now, the large tab, content. This is where when a person's like, well, where's all this lecture material I keep alluding to? I keep mentioning it. Well, where is it? It's under content. When you click on content for the very first time, you're going to have the overview. But if you've already, before watching this video, gone into content and clicked on various things, that D2L is going to save wherever you leave off over here. But you can always, if you want to just clear the screen and go back to 0, you can always go to the overview. You just click this tab. You see how it's a little darker than the background. That lets you know where you are. And the way it works, when you want to find something in content, excuse me, there's just click on content and then just look to the left side of the screen, and you can pretty much ignore what's on the right hand side when you initially come into content. And you look to the left side of the screen and there's 3 tabs. These are the top layer navigation tabs in content of how you find things. There is a getting started course information module, there's a course contents, and there's extra credit. Well, let's see what happens when you click, say, on this tab, extra credit. What happens? Well, it opens up. What these things are is like folders that you click on them and they open in the middle of the screen. And so we clicked on extra credit, and extra credit is what is opened in the middle of our screen. See? And there's 3 extra credit opportunities this semester. They're voluntary. You don't have to do them. But if you choose to do them, they need to be completed by these days. And I won't go through what each is. You can read through them yourself. That you will have everything you need to do extra credit 1 after this first week. Once you've done the first week, I encourage everybody, look at extra credit 1. You'll be able to do it after this. After we get through this first week, you'll have all you need. But you have until the 1st of March to do it. So you got a lot of time, but this will be fresh on your mind after this week. It's an easy way to pick up 2 final grade points. Now, the next 2 extra credits are identical in terms of the directions. The only difference is you're picking a different argument to analyze. So extra credit 2 is you pick an argument and then you analyze it through these steps. I would encourage people to wait a few weeks before attempting extra credit 2 or extra credit 3 for those who are interested. Like extra credit 3, it tells you it's the same task as 2, it's just a different passage with an argument in it. But you can read through this stuff. But that's extra credit, and that's one of the 3 tabs over here. The next tab we'll look at is this Getting Started Course Information module. We'll save the course contents till after we go through the other 2 tabs. Now, the thing to notice is we clicked on it, and that's what's in the middle of the screen now, and that it's sectioned off. These tabs have expanded over here on the right-hand side. That's just something to notice of how D2L functions. And so everybody knows we're in content. So when we scroll down, it's like it's Getting Started Course Information module, and then it's Course Information, D2L How-Tos, and Student Services. These tabs have appeared because we clicked on this upper tab. And so, well, what are they? What's in them? Well, we're inside this main tab here, and then the next sub-tab is Course Information. So there's Course Information and whatever's in it. Well, then there's D2L How-Tos and Student Services. So if this works the way you probably suspect it does, we should, if we go under this, scroll down, we should see D2L How-Tos and Student Services. So if we scroll down, yep, there it is. It's right here with D2L How-Tos. And then under that should be Student Services. Yep, it's there. And so what's in these things? Well, in Course Information, it's information about the course. It's a link to the video you're currently watching. It's a link to the syllabus, to the course schedule, also to this webpage talking about net etiquette. If you've never been in an online course before or ever taken one in a professional academic setting, which is what we're in, then I would encourage you to check out this net etiquette webpage. It's created by distance learning and the IT people, and it includes things about you always complete, like say a discussion post. You write it in complete sentences. You capitalize the first letter of the sentence, include punctuation. You don't use a lot of abbreviations like you may do with sending a text message. Also, you use your standard uppercase at the first letter, lowercase, rest of the font. The reason for that is because that's what people are accustomed to reading and seeing in an academic professional setting. And it's totally possible inside D2L to make all kinds of different fonts, like different shapes to the letters, also different coloration to the letters. But if you're making posts in all capital letters with like fluorescent green or pink or orange or purple font, it's difficult for people to read. And it really is. It reduces accessibility because people are not accustomed to seeing that. It doesn't mean you've done anything wrong. It just means that a blockade has been put in front of most people to be able to just focus on what you're saying rather than the pattern that you've chosen to make the letters. And so, just to make it easier on everybody else in an academic professional setting, just pick standard fonts, Calibri, Times Roman, things like that, and then just blue or black font. And then because that's what, or blue or black coloration to the font, it's just easier for everybody to read. And in a philosophy style class, which is what this is, the topic is ethics, but it's an overall philosophy class on ethics. That what matters is what you're saying and your reasoning, not the way it looks. It's not about what the text looks like, it's what you're actually using it to say. And so you don't want something to get in the way of people being able to understand what you're saying or slowing them down. And so net etiquette talks about all that stuff. It's very well worth one's time to at least look through it. There's also distance learning policies. These apply to everybody taking the class. It's an online class that's distance from the school. So you want to look through these policies. This is that any questions we saw over in discussions. This is about any of these policies in the syllabus course schedule stuff. But like I said, just email me your questions. It's always easier. And then there's links to that instructional package course information sheet, which are the alternatives to using the syllabus and course schedule. There's links to those two documents here if you prefer to use those. The next thing is D2L how-tos. This is for someone that this is your very first online class, or maybe it's your second one. But if you ever want to know how this D2L interface, how it actually works, regardless of the class, how things are arranged in it, as a content management system, this is a helpful video to watch. And there's a tip sheet. So if this is your first online class, I would certainly encourage you to watch them. And essentially what they're doing is walking through D2L in general, which is what we're walking through D2L or talking through it and showing it on the screen in particular to this class. But this is useful for any class you happen to take this inside D2L. The next thing, student services. This is just the beginning. This is a start of them. The school offers 100 or more services. So these are by no means all that the school offers. When you pay tuition, you get access to a lot of services. These are just a few that may be relevant to you throughout the semester in this class or in other classes. Now there's Link to Tech Central, the student services for distance learning students. You can avail yourself to this. The tutoring center is available. The testing center, we don't use this in this class, but you may be using it in other classes. If so, there's a link to it. There's accessibility disability services. If that applies to you, you get in touch with the people here and they get in touch with me and we make the accommodations. There's also Title IX services. There's library information, as well as there's counseling services and many more. This is just the start of it. So that's what's under this Getting Started Course Information Module tab. Now, if you want to close these tabs on the left-hand side, you're like, whoa, this is getting busy over here to have to pay attention to. Well, and it does, especially when we get to course contents. If you want to collapse back to the top three tabs, just hit Table of Contents. Then it drops back to the main three tabs. And then if you want to clear the whole screen, you can always click Overview, and you're back to zero, right where we started. But now, the final tab, the most important tab potentially, is course contents. When you're looking, where is my lecture material for week 1? Here it is. It's in course contents. And it takes time because the entire course is right under this tab. And so when you're looking for how do I find the material for week 1, you click content, look to the left side of the screen, scroll down. Click the table of or the course contents tab, and then there's week 1, week 2, week 3, all the way down the line, and those tabs have expanded tremendously. See? It goes all the way through week 12. You've even got tabs associated with the midterm exam and the final exam. So what's in week 1? Well, we can click the tab, just click on it. And there's week 1, Intro to Ethical Theory. This is the material you'll be reading, watching, completing this week. Now, how did we do this? We just clicked Content, went to Course Contents down here, and then we selected week 1. So Course Contents, we selected week 1. Now that's what's appearing in the middle of the screen. And if you look through this, it will match that course schedule. All the same information, that very first 3-page document we saw earlier in this video matches. It's identical to the information inside Course Contents. So there's week 1, and then your lecture material for this week. There's the video. There's the handout that goes along with the video. There's another handout that's mentioned and covered in the video. Everything with these SEs, that's my initial, that's your lecture material. You always want to find this, read and watch it in the week. Then there's a link to the discussion that you can complete the discussion. After you've done this, you're perfectly ready to do the discussion. You just click on the link, start a new thread. You can do the discussion. Also, underneath the discussion, there's a link to quiz 1. So everything you need to complete a week, you don't even have to go to the assignments tab. If you just go into content, you can do everything inside content. And then there's also this voluntary stuff associated with each week, that it has these extra links to other material and other videos that if you want to learn more, it's in the voluntary stuff. But this is what you're required to read and watch and complete during week 1. Now, notice you don't have anything to do with about a textbook in week 1. You don't need a textbook to do this week's material. Everything you need is right here, and then the discussions and quizzes. That same thing applies to, say, week 2. Like I just clicked on week 2 over on the left-hand side. I'm in week 2. You don't need any textbook to do anything to do with week 2. That everything you need is right there. But now, starting in week 3, over here on this tab, when we click week 3, you'll start seeing textbook readings appear. And so, by week 3, you need the textbook. And how do you find these things in the textbook? You just look in the table of contents and find the authors and the article titles and then read them. That's how that works. And there's textbook readings for most weeks after starting week 3, and there's something associated with textbook for pretty much every week. Not every week, but most every week through the rest of the semester. But that's how it works. So let's go through this one more time, just so people know and can see how it all works. We're going to collapse these tabs back to just the 3, and then we'll go all the way back to overview, so a person can see how all this is done. Let's say you log into the class. We'll go back to course homepage. This is where you're going to arrive when you log in. And then you need your lecture material for week 1. So you go to content. You can ignore what's in the middle. Just look at the left side of the screen. And then you scroll down and you select, you want your week 1 material. So course contents. Give D2L a second to find itself. And then you can scroll down so you can see it a little better. And then just select the week 1 tab, click on it. And then there's week 1. And you'll see it's just, we're still in the same stuff, but we're in week 1 now. And then there's the lecture material with the discussion and the quiz underneath the discussion. All of it's right there. So that's how you find your material for each week. And so if you were looking for, instead of week 1, you're looking for week 7. Well, there's week 7. There's week 6. Now, what about the midterm and the final exam, though? Let's click on this. This is something to note. That the midterm exam covers material from weeks 1 through 6. Well, what does the final exam cover? So let's go down all the way beneath week 12. So we're at final exam. And it covers material for weeks 7 through 12. What does this mean in practical terms? It means that you do not have a cumulative final in this class. That you go through weeks 1 through 6, you take the midterm exam, you can kind of push that and make space in your mind, and then just focus on week 7 through 12 for the final exam. You don't have to retain everything from day 1 all the way through week 12 for the final. You just need week 7 through 12. So it kind of alleviates a little bit of the burden off of your mind. So you focus the first half of the semester, you do the midterm exam, then you can kind of reset your mind, focus on the second half of the semester, and then do the final exam. Just makes it a little easier. And so now we just go back to 0. Now, there's just one more thing we need to look through. We go back to course home. And we need to talk about the syllabus. This document right here. So when you click this link, a document that looks like this will appear. This is a syllabus for the course. This is where the course policies, descriptions of the assignments, all that stuff is. You have my name, my email address, office hours. It says there'll be more about these in this video, so here's the more. Office hours are whenever you need them to be. With this class, it's 100% online, so when you have a question, just send me an email. I'll read your email and reply to it. That's our office hours. If that happened on a Monday, fine, no problem. If it happens between Wednesday 1 to 4, that's fine too. I won't necessarily be sitting at the computer waiting for an email to arrive on Wednesdays 1 to 4 p.m. unless someone says they need me to be. You send me an email, I'll read it, reply to it. If we need to do more than that, like I determined that it'd just be more efficient to talk through it on the phone, that's fine. We can set up a time that's around your schedule, and we'll set up a time, talk through whatever it is on the phone. So that's the way we do office hours in this class, is just, it all starts with an email. Send me an email. We go from there. If we need to arrange a phone conversation, we will. It's no worries. But it all starts with email, and it's whenever you need them to be, you send me an email, I reply, and we go forward from there. But if a person needs me at these times to talk with the phone, whatever, I can always be available. The next thing is there's the textbook, the full bibliographic information, course rationale, description. You can read that. Prerequisites, you can look through these. If all of these you don't have a clue whether you've done these or not, well, the easiest way is just contact your academic advisor, whoever helped you register for classes, and they can look into that. If they need to get in touch with me, they can, and we'll go from there. We'll work it out. Also, if this is your very first online class, the school typically wants people to do an orientation to distance learning. You'll want to ask your academic advisor about that if you haven't already done so. The next thing is additional requirements. This is a student code of rights and responsibilities. This applies to policies for the whole school. You can look through that. It applies to every class you take at the college. Technical requirements, given that this is a 100% online class, you have to have a reliable computer and internet access throughout the semester. You're doing everything via the internet, so you have to be able to access the class that way, throughout the semester, whether it's your personal machine or a library machine, whatever's fine. It just has to be a computer and a way to get to the class and do the assignments and get in touch with me when you need to. There's attention. I'm definitely here to enhance your educational experience, your learning experience. Course learning outcomes. These are what happens at the end of the semester. You put in your work, I put in mine, and these are just a few of the things you'll be more familiar with and able to do by the end of the semester. One of the things you'll certainly be more familiar with is this notion of argumentation in the academic technical sense. And that is a very valuable skill that transfers to whatever you do after this class, whether it's in everyday life, jobs, careers. The argumentation skill set that you can start picking up in a class like this one is invaluable. I've used it my entire life since I learned how to work with it. The grading system, 9 to 10 point scale, standard. The way your grade's determined, you start out with 0 final grade points, and as you complete assignments, you're adding your grade up. And so the way this works, not to get hung up with the percentages so much, is what each thing is worth is what really matters. That if you do a weekly discussion, you do it correctly, you have a 2.5. That's the final grade points you've added. Then the next week you do another one correctly. Then you have 5 grade points. And it just goes that way throughout the semester. The quizzes, you have 11 of them. You don't have one during the midterm exam week. They're worth 2 final grade points apiece. So as you do a quiz, you get 100% on it. You know, you answered all the questions correctly. You have 2 final grade points for that. And same with the midterm final exams, except the questions are worth a little less. And then you have extra credit, which is worth 8 final grade points. If you do all 3, that will change your letter grade from a B to an A, from a C to a B, D to a C. If you have like a 72 and you do all the 3 of these extra credits, you end up with an 80. So it's certainly worth thinking about that extra credit. It's a helpful kind of buffer to protect you if you happen to not do as well as you would have liked on a quiz or an exam or discussion. If you have these extra credit points in play, you can still do well overall. The details of each of the assignments, like discussions, you can read through this. You do an initial post by the middle of the week. You do at least 2 peer replies. You can reply to more than 2 people, but 2 is the minimum to receive full credit. And it always needs to be thoughtful and include your reasons. Just saying I agree or I disagree will not count as a peer reply. You always have to give reasons for whatever you're saying. And then that's helpful feedback. There's not a set number of sentences or paragraphs that you have to do to successfully complete the weekly discussions. It's just you provide your answers and reasons for the questions. Then you provide 2 peers with feedback. Typically, you can do these things about 3 to 7 sentences for a peer reply. And there's normally sufficient, just your feedback to the person. Some people write a little, some people write a lot. Either way is fine. As long as you've answered the questions and provided helpful feedback, all is well. Finally, participating in these weekly discussions is definitely important for the class throughout the semester. I'll even respond, I'll reply to some people's posts. I don't reply to everyone's post every week. I reply to a few every week, more when I have the time and less when, all the other things going on take over. But I do read what everybody posts when it comes to the time to do grading. And I definitely enjoy these discussions. It's a lot of fun. You get to see what everybody's kind of thinking and how they're reasoning through these questions. It's just interesting and it's neat. There's so much to learn from one another. So the discussions are one of the more fun parts of the class. The material can be really interesting that we go through, but seeing what other people think and how they reason is just very valuable to getting a larger picture of what's going on in a topic. So discussions are definitely important. The weekly quizzes, they have 10 questions. They're multiple choice, true, false. When you click on a quiz, the link to it, a timer begins. 30 minutes is how long you have to do those 10 questions. You have a quiz every week except the midterm week. The midterm exam and the final, they're the exact same format as the weekly quizzes. They're just bigger quizzes. That's all they are. They just have more questions. Instead of 10 questions, you have 48. And it covers weeks 1 through 6 material, as we've already seen. And it has a timer, 90 minutes, hour and a half. You have to do the midterm, as well as you have an hour and a half to do the final. And it's the same 40. It's just different questions over different weeks of material. And so once you've done one quiz, you'll know the layout, the format, how the exams are going to work. They're just going to have more questions than the quizzes. Now, this is an entirely online course. Every quiz discussion, you send it through this D2L system. That it's best to avoid trying to complete quizzes and exams on a cell phone. The reason for that is that sometimes the D2L testing software does not play well with cell phone operating system software, or the delays, the lag of sending. It may seem instantaneous as you're doing it on a phone, but it's actually not. That has to go through a cell tower, and then that tower communicate through the internet, and then that get to D2L. Whereas if you're just doing it from a computer, it's just from your computer through the internet to D2L. And so there's a delay built in with cell communication, whether it's perceptible or not to us humans, is very much so to computers. Like nano and picoseconds count when you're dealing with machines, in computation, not whole minutes and whole seconds like we're familiar with. So the testing software in D2L, it can just get a little confused. So it's best to um, do the quizzes and exams on a regular computer. The timers, the way they work is as soon as you agree to take a quiz, the timer begins and it runs for that time and then ends. And if you agree to take a quiz, you have 30 minutes and you go in and work on it for 5 minutes and then log out of D2L and then come back 5 hours later, the timer's already going to have expired. So when you get ready to do quizzes and exams, just go ahead and do them. That's the way to think about it. It's something to just do and be done with at one block of time and not try to log out, because your progress, the timer doesn't stop just because you log out. It continues to count down. There's extra credit. We've already seen that, how that works. Makeup policy. If you miss the discussion, send me an email. We'll go from there. It's not so easy to make them up, but just send me an email. Let me know what's going on, and we'll go from there. You can make up quizzes and the midterm exam. If you have an acceptable documented reason, just send me an email. Let me know. We go from there. I'll reopen the stuff. The one thing that's not make up, though, is the final exam. And it's really just a technical reason that when the final exam is due, you have I have like 24 hours normally to update grades with the registrar and turn in your final grades. So it's just a practical technical difficulty that there's just not enough time for me to reopen final exam for someone to do it. And that's the only reason. Otherwise, it'd be fine. But the final exam, you just need to do it during the time it's available. You'll always have 7 days to do any quiz or any exams. So normally, there's no problem. But if it's a midterm exam or a quiz earlier in the semester, they can be made up. But the final exam, that's just that week and that week alone. And it's just because I have to turn in grades. Disruptive, disrespectful behavior, the simple things, you just don't do it. You don't want to reply to somebody's post when you're trying to give helpful feedback and say, well, this is the stupidest thing I've ever read. That may be true, objectively true. It may be indeed something you've read. You've never read anything more stupid. But you don't have to approach a person that way and disrupt everybody. You essentially, if you think it's one of these things, you just disagree with it. That's it. And so just say, I disagree, and then point to what it is you disagree with. Was there reasoning? Does it seem like one of the reasons was false? Did the example they offer not do the argumentative work that they may have thought it did? Give them feedback that they can use to improve the next time around, rather than be insulting, or disrespectful. It's just not necessary. And in an academic professional setting, it's the disruption that's the big problem, because people focus on that rather than focus on, learning the material. It's the distraction that's the problem more than the insult. The insult could be problematic from a moral, ethical point of view, but in terms of just the technical aspect of college classes, it distracts. And everybody's paid and attending to learn rather than be distracted. There is a policy about this. If it happens once, and it's all dependent on the severity of it, a person can get a warning, or they can be removed from the class and the entire school, depending on how severe it is. Same thing applies to plagiarism and cheating. Plagiarism is you find something that you didn't write, you didn't think it up, and you put your name on it and you turn it in and say, yep, this is mine, when it's in fact not yours. You've stolen it and you put your name on it. And that could be ideas, whole paragraphs. And just the idea is you do your own work. This is a 100 level class. It's so much easier just to do your own work. Perfection is not the expectation. The expectation is you read the material, you try, you do the best you can, And it's like you're being graded on answering questions, providing reasons for your answers and discussions. Well, that's going to vary amongst everybody. Most people won't have the same reasons. And so your reasons will almost invariably be unique and interesting. Whereas if you just go and get someone else's stuff and put your name on it, well, it's not yours. And that would be theft. And so you just don't want to do it. There's policies if it's substantiated. This includes like AI stuff, that software. It's easy to spot. Like they, the hype may be that, oh, this is so human like and all. Well, it's not to someone like me that's actually written this software. I mean, this is what I did in graduate school, was develop some software like this in philosophy of mind. So it's like it's not it's not as a human would do. It may be fancy. It's a really good guess the next word and get the grammar right tool, but it's not necessarily it's you're doing yourself a disservice if you use it to craft posts. Now, it's easier to just do your own work. Think about it. Use your own mind. But if it is substantiated, you're definitely going to get a 0 on the assignment. You can get a 0 in the course. You can be removed from the school. It follows you around in your permanent record, and then you may not be able to get accepted into other colleges later down the line. So plagiarism, cheating, it's just not worth it. Attendance. How does it work? Technically, you're attending 3 times. You make an initial post to a discussion. You make 2 peer replies. You do a quiz. You've attended 3 times. In principle, you could log in 1 time in the middle of the week, make your initial post to discussion. You'll be able to see what other people have posted. You can read it. If there's at least 2 people that have already posted, you can make your peer replies right then. You can do your quiz. You're done. I mean, you've done the whole week. You may have done it in 1 login event. That's fine. Some people do it that way. But you will always want to check later in the week to see if somebody's replied to your discussion post. And you may want to reply to more people, so you always check it. You're going to log in at least 2 times every week, but that doesn't mean you have to log in 3 times to get marked as attending. No, as long as you're doing the discussions, the quizzes, you will have attended 3 times. The school's policy about attendance. How many days can you miss? Well, for this course, the amount of weeks you can miss 2.5, 3 weeks. For the course, that if you miss over that, you've dropped below the required 80%, and I'm required to withdraw you. This isn't my policy, it's the school's policy, and it's based on the way federal law works and funding and state law. So if you miss over 3 weeks, I have to withdraw you. Now, you can, if you made up that work before that time, then you've attended. So the key to it all is you just don't want to fall off the grid and not say anything and just not be completing assignments, because if it hits where 3 weeks you've not done anything, I have to withdraw you. And I notice that when I'm updating attendance each week. So it's not like I want to withdraw anybody. I don't. But I have to follow this policy. And so for this first week, you do that attendance and identity verification. You do the assignments. You'll have attended this week. That's the same thing, the verification. Then there's technical issues. If you click on a link inside D2L or the class and it comes up with a 404 error, or you click on something and it doesn't open right, definitely let me know, because I'm the only person that's going to fix that, and I will fix it. Especially given that I'm uploading these lecture videos again and relinking them. I could make a mistake doing that, not catch it, and you click on a lecture video link and it comes up as a empty file not found. If that's the case, send me an email. As soon as I see your email, I'll fix it. It's not a problem. I'll do my best for you never to have to encounter that inconvenience. But if it happens, we'll fix it. But definitely let me know. And if you're running into difficulty with your computer talking to D2L, let me know about that too, and I can help you get in touch with IT. We'll get it worked out. I'm here to help with any of that kind of stuff, and the course material as well. Student resources, this is just the full phone numbers, locations for things that you can find in that student services links inside D2L. Well, we go back to the home page. We have reached the end of this video. We've been through the class. If you have any questions, now's a good time. After you watch this video, get out of D2L, go to your email, send me a quick email. Hey, I'm in your ethics class. Ask me your questions. I'll answer them. But if nothing else, you can just send me your attendance verification email. And then make sure to do your ID verification before the end of the week and do the discussion and quiz. And I look forward to interacting with everyone in the discussions and through email. Until then.